The marketing landscape is shifting faster than anyone predicted. The old maps don't work. And the brands that are winning aren't following a better playbook, they're pioneering on without one. This is Brandistry Buzz, a podcast for marketers who are ready for whatever comes next. I'm Nate Challen, brand strategist, marketing executive, and someone who's spent 3 decades helping brands navigate uncertain territories. Each week, we'll take one idea in marketing, leadership, or innovation and follow it through until it's actually useful. Real examples, honest takes, clear recommendations. So let's buzz! Recently, I was asked to contribute some thinking to a book on what marketers today can learn from the past. It's good exploration, wide-ranging, little nostalgic, and not surprisingly, the subject of claims came up. I don't know how many of these ideas will make it in the book, but the topic felt worthy of an exploration in Brandistry Buzz. So let's start with the rubber hits the road literally at a truck stop diner in New Mexico. The sign out front says world's best chicken. Not regional, not statewide, world's best. Even I spend a lot of time laughing at the audacity of the claims in these settings. Imagine a corporate-style conversation between marketing and legal over how to substantiate it. But of course, there was no review, no marketing team, no inside counsel, just a restaurant owner who is more worried about selling chicken than she is about getting sued over her claim. And the claim works because it's confident, specific, and completely unverifiable. You want to know for sure if they've got the world's best chicken? You have to go in and try the chicken. That tension between unfettered confidence of the truck stop and the heavily footnoted claims of the Fortune 500 is what makes claims one of the most interesting creative problems in marketing, and what gives marketers such a bad reputation. So what is a claim really? At its core, a claim is an attempt to do 3 things at once: differentiate your brand from the competition in a way that's relevant to your audience, to make the decision easy. The best claims do it all, sustainably. The worst do none, or worse, do one at the expense of each other. In ready terms, a great claim lives at the intersection of relevance, distinctiveness, and ease. It tells your audience something that matters to them in a way no competitor can say, or at least hasn't said yet. And it drives ease in a way that often goes unrecognized. It gives consumers a rational permission structure to act on an emotional preference. It makes the decision feel safe. People want to feel good about a choice they've already made emotionally. A great claim helps them get there. So the power of saying it first. Not every great claim is actually differentiating in a strict sense. Some of the most effective claims in history are parody claims, statements any competitor could technically make but didn't. In the early 1960s, Avis was the undisputed number 2 in the car rental market, trailing Hertz by a wide margin. Rather than pretend otherwise, they leaned into "we're number 2" and articulated it as "we try harder." It was honest, slightly self-depreciating, and turned a structural disadvantage into a brand conviction. The implied logic was elegant. If you're not number 1, you can't afford to be complacent. It was relevant. Who wants indifferent service? And completely distinctive. No one sitting at number 1 would ever say it. Within a year of the campaign launching, Avis went from losing money to generating $1.2 million in profit. The truck stop in New Mexico is doing something similar. Sure, another truck stop could open next door and put up the same sign, but then they would immediately fail to be different. The principle behind both examples is the same. First mover advantage on a claim creates ownership over an idea your competitors can't easily reclaim, even if they could have said it. Here's 3 types of substantiated claims. Once you move beyond parody claims into fully substantiated territory, there are 3 distinct approaches, each with its own economics, risks, and shelf life. The first is substantiated by people. 4 or 5 dentists recommend. 70% of users prefer. Celebrity endorsement belongs here too, though you can split hairs on the definition. Behind all of it is the same basic logic. People at a specific moment in time said they preferred something. Tribalism runs deep. Tell someone that someone else does something, and they're more likely to want to do it too. Unless that someone else is a teenager and the someone else is their parent. I have direct experience in this. The economics of people-backed claims are often underestimated. When 4 or 5 dentists recommend your brand, it's typically because you're actively promoting dentists. Cut your professional sales force and the free samples, and the recommendations shift. Stop paying for the survey, and you lose the claim entirely. The investment doesn't end at the research. It ends when you stop investing in the results. The same is true for celebrities. The endorsement is a business relationship. Cut ties and the support goes away. Secondary is substantiated by science, kills 99% of germs, reduces wrinkles in 2 weeks, up to 48 hours of protection. There's a creative layer to science backed claims that people often miss. The study design itself is a strategic decision. What you measure, how you measure it, and how you articulate the outcomes are all choices that happen well before a claim goes to legal. I learned this firsthand on Rolaids. We had a clinical study showing we neutralized 47% more acid than Tums. Impressive, right? We thought so. The problem was that heartburn sufferers were focused on speed of relief and taste, two things we couldn't claim superiority on. The science was real, the relevance wasn't. The Rolaids example is a good reminder that a claim also has to pass the audience test, even if it passes the legal one. The flip side is building what I call a claims pipeline, finding multiple expressions of the same study over time. On Avino, rather than repeat the same claim indefinitely or commission new trials every few years, the team identified different facets of the same clinical data and brought fresh claims news on a regular cycle. One study, multiple strategic moments, that's a compounding asset. One longer-term risk, the scientific horizon keeps moving. SPF 15 was once the gold standard. Now SPF 100 plus exists. SPF 50 blocks 98% of UVB rays. SPF 100 blocks 99%. That's 1 percentage point of difference, but if you're SPF 50, it now sounds like you're half as effective. And there's no study that fixes that problem. The third bucket is substantiated by sales. America's best-selling beer, #1 selling lipstick brand, billions and billions served. These claims borrow the logic of the first bucket, tribalism, social proof, and add the weight of accumulated sales. Only #1 gets to say they're #1, until they're not. Budweiser was America's best-selling beer for decades. Then Modelo took the top spot in 2003. Then Michelob Ultra in 2005. The claim doesn't just become unavailable in the hands of a sharp competitor, it becomes a liability. Budweiser may not be #1 anymore, but Yuengling can legitimately call itself America's best-selling craft beer. The category you compete in is a strategic decision, and sometimes a smaller pond makes you look like a bigger fish, with a defensible, distinctive claim to match. So when do claims cross the line? There's a meaningful distinction between not knowing, making a mistake, pushing the creative latitude of a true statement, and deliberately misleading people. Most marketers are doing one of the first three most of the time. The fourth is a different matter entirely. Purdue Pharma's claim that OxyContin was less likely to cause addiction belongs in a category of its own. It wasn't a parody claim dressed up cleverly. It wasn't a scientific study interpreted with a creative latitude. It was a misrepresentation, one that influenced prescribing behavior at scale and has contributed to one of the worst public health crises this country has seen. The consequences, thousands of lives, billions in settlements, and the near total collapse of the company. That's not a marketer pushing the boundaries, that's something else entirely. This is the type of example that makes advertisers one of the lowest rated for their honesty and ethical standards by Americans, just above members of Congress and lobbyists. Yet most marketers I've worked with are genuinely trying to be creatively accurate, not misleading. They believe in their products and they're trying to get more people to experience them. Besides, the risk of reputation from a discredited claim can outweigh the gains from a questionable claim. And there are multiple organizations policing claims. The FTC, the FDA, the Better Business Bureau, and the NAD all exist to ask exactly one question: can you prove it? And your competition is also watching closely. Marketers should always ask themselves, if your claim were challenged tomorrow and you had to hand over your supporting data to a regulator or a plaintiff's attorney, would you be comfortable doing it? If there's a hesitation, that hesitation should give you pause. How do you put it into practice? Claims aren't underused, they're underthought. The gap isn't how often marketers deploy them, it's in how carefully they're built. Here's a few principles worth keeping. 1. Screen every claim against relevance and distinctiveness before anything else. Does this matter to my audience? Can or will my competition say it? If the answer is not really and yes, go back to the drawing board. Great claims serve both dimensions simultaneously. 2. Think in pipelines, not a point in time. Leverage multiple claims expressions from a single clinical study over several years is a model worth building into your planning process. Invest once, fuel communication for years, treat your research portfolio as a strategic asset. 3. Protect your number one claims proactively. Sales-based claims are competitive targets. Know how close the competition is and have a contingency plan for when the ranking shifts. Narrow the lens is a strategy worth having. 4. Don't underestimate saying it first. A parity claim said with conviction and consistency can build real equity. The willingness to own a position, even an uncomfortable one, is itself a form of distinctiveness. 5. Build a claims audit into your annual calendar. Scientific benchmarks move, competitive landscapes shift. A claim that was clearly superior 3 years ago may be table stakes today. Know where you stand. 6. Use the defend it publicly test. Before publishing a claim, ask, if I had to explain this study on record, could I do it with confidence? If the answer is no, the claim isn't ready. Claims at their best are a service to the consumer, a shortcut to confidence in a world full of choices. They make decisions feel rational when the real driver is often emotional. That's not manipulation, that's good marketing. That's it for this week's Brandistry Buzz. One more idea to help you navigate whatever comes next. If this episode made you think, subscribe wherever you're listening so you don't miss what's next. And come find me on LinkedIn, where I'm posting between episodes, trends, takes, and the occasional things that I'm still figuring out. Prefer to read? Brandistry Buzz is also a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn and Substack. Links are in the show notes. I'll be back next week. In the meantime, stay ready.